Hello, my name is Kobe,
My name is Tom.
And I am Cole.
and welcome to the Couch
Couch
Potato
Potato
Lab,
Lab.
where
Alright.
we bring the science to you in the comfort of your own home. So today's episode is going to be a grand one, so make sure you download that lab manual from bit.ly/couchpotatolab. It's going to be in a blog style done by our friend Natalie, so make sure you check that out because it's superb. All right, remember to text in and tweet in your questions, because we really appreciate them and love it when you ask these really cool questions that sometimes we don't know either. So we might do some research and have some fun with that. So you can tweet in your questions with Twitter with the hashtag CouchPotatoLab, and our social media handle is @IsYouth for like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. The other thing you can do is text in your questions with 306-570-1013, and it's going to be great. Before we begin, remember that we are airing 5 episodes a day. It's going to be super nice. Tomorrow is our last episode of the week where we do something like engineering, which is really cool. But let's begin. Let's meet our scientist for today. Hello.
Hello. Howdy. My name is Tom. My pronouns are he, him. And a quick fun fact about me is that I could water ski, but not just water ski. I could do that thing where they get down on one ski. I believe they call that not wakeboarding, but the word has finally escaped me. Let's just move on to our next host.
Maybe it's sleepboarding. I don't know.
Yeah.
My name is Kobe. Nice to meet you. I am the host for today's show. My pronouns are he and him. And a fun fact about me is that one of my quintuplets is going to have her debut on this Couch Potato Lab today. So it's going to be superb. All right, and to my right, who do we have over here?
Hello, everybody. My name is Cole. My pronouns are he and him. And a little fun fact about me is I'm actually the heir to the Heinz ketchup fortune. So hopefully some big money coming in soon for me. Yeah, that's me.
All right. And before we begin, we would just like to take a moment to recognize that EYES as an organization, as well as this live stream, is operating on Treaty 4 territory. That's the traditional homeland of the Nakaway, Nehewak, Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota people, as well as the traditional homeland of the Métis Michif Nation. Some people here watching the live stream might be watching it from different treaty territories as well as sovereign nations. And we'd just like to thank you for taking a moment out of the live stream for recognizing that.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. All right, so today's episode, we're going to learn a little bit about the muscular system and the skeletal system, but I'm kind of iffy on that. I don't have no idea what those two are. Cole, do you have any idea on what those two systems are?
I can fill you in a little bit, Kobe. So today, like you said, we're going to be focusing on 2 different systems of the body that are involved in movement, okay? So the reason that I can do this with my arms, pretty cool stuff, is because of 2 really important systems in my body, and that's the muscular system and the skeletal system. Now, first we'll talk about the skeletal system. Does anybody have an idea of how many bones are in the human body?
Oh, I'll take a guess, Cole.
Yes, please.
600.
600?
600 bones.
Whoa, 600 bones. You know what? That's funny that you say that, because if we took all my bones, all of Kovi's bones, and all of your bones, and we added them up together, we would get around 600 bones, because the human body has around 200, a little bit over 200 bones in our skeletal system, which is pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Pretty crazy stuff. Now, here's the next thing. Guess how many muscles we have in our body?
We have 2 muscles, the up muscle and the down muscle.
I'm going to agree with Kobe.
So you're both locking in your answer as 2 muscles, the
Final
up muscle
answer.
and the down muscle. Well, it's a little bit higher than 2. It's actually what you said before, Tom, and that's 600 muscles. We have over 600 muscles in our body all over the place, and the muscular system and the skeletal system, which is our bones, our skeleton, they work in tandem. They work together to create movement. So the muscular system and the skeletal system working together is how we get the process of movement. And we're going to be talking about both of them today.
Yeah, I even have a little demo prepared that talks all about flexion. And flexion, I think we know it more as the shorter term flexing, flex, flexing, all that stuff. That's when our muscles and our bones are working together and the muscles are contracting in one direction or another. So I'm going to start over with my good friend Cole.
Yeah.
You have what we call a resistance band.
Right here.
Right there.
Yeah. So I'm going to try this out. Now, as most of the viewers at home can probably tell, I do work out often.
Yes.
And so what I'm going to do, how do I do this, Tom?
Just put 1 foot in.
1 foot on. Okay. And I'm going to hold it like this?
Yeah, and then I want you to try to bring it to your shoulder.
Oh, geez. Okay. Oh, that's pretty tough.
Whoa.
There's a little bit. Oh, I can do it. That's pretty good.
So swole.
But there's almost some, it's not easy. There's almost some resistance,
Yeah.
I would say, like
In
to
the
get
band,
it up.
would you say?
I would say that there's some resistance in the band. Look at that. I can even hold it there. Pretty good. Yeah, that's tough, but not too tough. I can handle it. That's
Nice.
cool.
Well, that's why we call you Swole Cole.
That's why they call me Swole Cole.
And please, viewers watching this, only refer to him as Swole Cole
Hashtag Swole Cole.
from now on. Covey, you also, I believe, have a resistance band. Now, this one has a higher resistance. The rubber, I believe it's made of rubber, is thicker, and that means that there's going to be more resistance. So what does more resistance mean for your muscles, Covey?
I think that more resistance means that I can bend my muscles easier, and this is going to be a lot easier for me than Cole, right?
Well, just give it a try.
All right. Should I do a bicep curl as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we got to keep it consistent. We got to keep our, our measurements consistent. So let's see it.
Experiment. with
Whoa.
Let me try again.
Come on, Covey. You can do it.
And he's not acting, people.
No, this is
that
real. I've never seen somebody so stressed out.
Oh, to the shoulders right there. Nailed it.
Wow.
Wow.
Ooh, wow, I broke a sweat there. Oh.
Great job, Covey. So you found more resistance, right, than you anticipated, right?
Yeah, so it's a lot harder than I thought.
And you know what? It wouldn't be complete without an absolutely ridiculously huge resistance band. I believe this one is about 90 pounds of resistance. I'm going to come out, and I'm going to try to do a bicep curl with this. Now, if I do it, I'll get the title of Swole Cole.
Oh, no. Then I have to go back to being Tom. Holy moly. Look at this. Folks, this is
Tom,
in person. Wow.
Wow. So there was lots of resistance there. Again, look how thick this is. This is a real thick band. There's tons of resistance, and eventually my muscles are just going to give out. They can't withstand all that resistance. Yeah, that was my quick little demo. Hopefully you all enjoyed.
Wow, interesting.
All right, so I know that there are many exercises that deals with like resistance bands to like improve our muscles, and I am trying to exercise a lot more because my goal in life is to beat Kavina in an arm wrestle.
Oh.
And I know that there are specific like movements and exercises that we have to focus on to improve our muscle growth. So Cole, do you have an idea on what kind of muscle movements that I can like incorporate in my workouts?
Yes, I do. Now, Tom, I think you actually might have it on the board as well once we get set up. But there's two main types of exercise when we're exercising our muscles. And I'm going to focus on what's called isometric exercise. So an isometric exercise is when your muscle fibers are activated and they're pushing and pulling, but you're not actually moving your body. So there's a lot of different examples, and I'm going to demonstrate a few. So I'm going to come out here and demonstrate some isometric exercise. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wall sit, okay? Here we go. And this is not much of a wall here, but you can try this at home. If you just get up, you find a wall anywhere. Usually there's 4 of them in a room. And you're just going to get down, and you're going to want to try, and this is tough for a guy like me, but you're going to want to try to get your knees sort of behind where your feet are, and then you're just going to sit. So it's almost like there's a chair there, but there isn't. I like to call it magical chairs. And when you're doing this, if you're following along at home, you might notice that it's starting to burn. It's really burning for me. And that burn that you're feeling is actually pretty cool. So your muscle cells are getting really, really tired as you do this isometric exercise. And when you start to feel that burn, what's happening is your muscle cells are going through a process called glycolysis. And when they go through that process, they start to create something called lactic acid, okay? And that lactic acid is the thing that's actually going to be burning, okay? So that's one example of isometric exercise. Another example is a plank.
Oh yeah.
Now, I don't know if you remember a few years ago. I don't know if our viewers are too young to remember, but planking was a big thing.
It was.
You would just go around and you would go to like a bench or a table or something and
Yeah.
you would plank. And a plank is really, really simple, maybe the most simple form of exercise. I'm going to get down here, and what you're going to do is you're going to lay flat on the ground, but then essentially you're just going to sort of lift up and hold a position like this.
That is great form, Cole.
Thank you very much. And what this is doing is activating your core muscles, and that's the where the exercise is. Whoa, this is feeling good.
You know, Cole, while you're just saying there, I believe we had a previous episode. I believe it was yesterday's episode. We had a pirate.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking, like, you know, pirates
Yes.
walk the plank, right?
They do.
So are you saying that pirates would be really good at planking?
Yes, and actually that was the original. That's where the planking originated, was on the vessels of the seven seas. But as you can see with isometric exercise, what we're seeing is there's no movement. But for both the wall sit and the plank, I wasn't actually moving my body in any way. But there was still clearly, as you could see by my shaking, trembling body down there, it was clearly activating muscle groups. And it was working. It was exercise.
Yeah.
But that's isometric exercise. That's not the only type. I think, Tom, you actually know a different type of exercise.
I do. In fact, we're just going to turn over our handy dandy whiteboard to reveal isotonic. Isotonic exercise is when your muscles are moving. In fact, I have right here a classic bicep curl you saw just a moment ago. How does that look on the board? That looks great. As you can see, the muscle is at rest here. It's not doing anything. But when it's curled up like that, that's when we have what we call a concentric movement. And the muscle gets more blood into it, and it expands. It swells up. It's flexing, as we say. So I'm going to go out here, and I'm going to do another type of isotonic exercise, and that would be a squat. Right?
Ooh, my
Yeah,
favorite.
of course.
We're activating our leg muscles, our quadriceps, our glutes, maybe our calves if you're doing it in a really weird way. Who knows? I'm not one to judge someone's squats, but here we go. You know, I'm moving. So sorry. I'm moving. You know, I'm just moving.
And so, Tom, the difference between what you're doing and what I was doing with the wall sit is you're moving, right? Where I was just kind of staying in a stationary position.
Yeah. So, Cole, I've been meaning to ask you this for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
In isotonic exercises, the bones are moving, right? The bones
Sure,
and the muscles
yes,
are working.
yes.
Is that happening in isometric exercise?
In isometric exercise, I believe it's only the muscles that are moving. The muscle fibers are activated. But again, because we're not actually we use a bicep curl, for example, which is an example of an isotonic, which is what Tom's demonstrating. When I'm moving, if I'm doing a bicep curl, which I can't do with actual weight, so I'm just going to demonstrate like this. You can see that the bones are moving. I'm moving at the elbow joint. So with an isotonic exercise, you're getting, both the muscles and the bones moving.
Very cool.
Right, so there's isotonic and there's isometric exercises, and we're gonna throw in some concentric and eccentric as well. So I'm gonna think I have some few ideas on how to improve my workout now. So that's super great. But I just want to hear your opinions. What do you think would be the best? Should I focus more on exercises with isotonic movements or isometric movements? What do you guys think?
That's a really, really good question. I think I'm gonna stay a little bit neutral here. I'm gonna say I think a little bit of both, right? I think there's benefits to both isometric and isotonic exercises. I know when you are stretching, let's say you're an athlete, you're warming up before a game or something like that, you might want to be doing isotonic exercises just so that you're getting a little bit more movement in the muscles and the bones. Because sometimes if we're doing isometric exercises before we go do something that's super isotonic, like running around or something like that, we might pull a muscle or get a cramp or something like that. So there's kind of a best of both worlds with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. And what's your take on it, Tom?
I would say, if you are going for maybe a gain in muscle mass, maybe stick to what we call compound movements, and those are mostly isotonic movements. So that's like a bench press or a deadlift or a squat. Things that work a lot of muscle groups at once. But if you're more into toning, which is when you just want to make your core muscles or any other muscles just denser, instead of bigger, then I would recommend some isometric. And again, I'm agreeing with Swole Cole over there that you do need to stretch. We can't stress that enough, that a good movement, get moving, get your blood pumping before you do any sort of exercise. Otherwise, you're going to cramp up, you're going to have a bad time, and that's not going to be great.
Thank you, Tom. I think that's great. Now I know what to for my workouts. I know specifically what muscle groups I want and what kind of movements I need for when I'm maybe if I'm trying to do my arm wrestle, practicing maybe a lot more isometric ones would be really good. All right, I have a question from one of our viewers, Nicole. Thank you for your question. Remember to text in your questions and tweet in as well. What is happening when my muscles cramp? So you were talking about muscle cramps before, Tom. Do you have any idea on what happens when muscles cramp?
Well, there's lots of factors that go into muscle cramping. Dehydration, I know, is a big factor. Dehydration just means you're not drinking enough water. Maybe you don't have enough electrolytes. That's things like salt in your body. So hydration is a big thing if you want to get rid of a cramp. Also, I think it's when lactic acid builds up, and it's just staying there. It's not going anywhere. It's just staying there, and it's hurting your muscles. So yeah, good old Dr. Tom would recommend drinking some water and stretching out that cramped up area. Maybe it'll work.
Yeah,
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. All right, so thank you for both explaining what different movements are, but I just need a little bit more help. I know we're talking about isometric and movement and muscles and all that, but I just can't picture in my head. I think we're going to move on to our activity now.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Right? Yes. So remember to download that lab manual from bit.ly/couchpotatolab. The lab manual is called Movement Mania, and it's going to show you a bunch of materials that you will need. So on Cole's and Tom's desk, you will see some materials that you need, like 3 toilet paper rolls or 3 paper towel rolls. You're going to also need some paper clips, elastic bands, either balloon or like a nylon sock, and things to stuff that nylon sock or balloon with. So for example, we brought cotton balls to use. You can maybe use socks, compost, leaves, really up to you. Be creative. All right, so are you two ready for this cool bicep, tricep kind of model?
Yeah. Definitely, definitely.
We warmed up. We're all stretched.
That's right.
We did lots of isotonic exercise. So
I'm almost a little tired after all of that exercise. So this will be a nice cool down where we kind of just think about muscles and not so much work them out, which is great.
Okay,
which is great.
Perfect.
So like Covey was saying, you're going to want to start for this activity where we're going to kind of be modeling the bones and the muscles in our arm. You're going to want to start with your paper towel or toilet paper rolls. If you have toilet paper rolls, it might be better just so that the model's a little bit bigger to tape them together. So if you can see on mine, I'm using paper towel rolls, which are a little bit longer. So they work a little bit better. But if you have toilet paper rolls, you can just simply glue or tape 2 together, and then you get that length that's a little bit better for this model.
Perfect.
Okay?
And I see that you have 3 paper towels in total.
Yes.
Why 3?
Well, the reason that we have 3 is because we're talking about the 3 major bones in your arm, okay? So if I want to hold this up to my arm maybe, like that, oh, that works pretty good, is these are the 3 major bones in our arm. So up here, sort of at the top of our arm, is what we call the humerus, all right? Nobody's ever called me humerus, but we definitely call this bone the humerus. And then coming down from the humerus are 2 bones, okay? And on the outside of your arm, so closest to the thumb, I believe, is the radius, all right? So that's your radius, and then on the other side, on the inside of your arm, is the ulna. So these 3 bones are going to be working together to create movement along with muscles in your arm. So that's why we need 3 toilet paper or paper towel rolls, because they represent those 3 bones in our arm.
Well, you know what, Cole? No one's ever called you humerus, but no one's ever called me ulna.
That's true. That's true.
That's a freebie for you kids. So yeah, we have our 3 paper towel rolls. I actually do have 2 toilet paper rolls taped together here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper clip, and you're going to, as you maybe see here, I have bent it so that it is a straight line, and you're going to poke holes through each of the paper towel holes. So it has a straight line. And then what you want to do here is, I'm not sure if the camera can, yeah, there we go. Yep. I've curved it on either side so that they stay in place. But also you can use tape to fasten it. I know, Cole, you have tape?
Yeah, I put tape on the ends of mine here just to, because sometimes the paper clip, which by the way should kind of look a little bit like this when you stretch it out. So you're just gonna like flatten out that paper clip so you have a bit of a line there. When it goes through, the ends can be kind of sharp and pointy, so you just wanna be careful. So what I did is I took mine and I put tape on the edges, so that just kind of prevents any accidents from occurring.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So this paperclip is acting as what we call a joint, okay? So a joint is where two or more bones actually meet each other. And we've got lots of joints in our body, but Kovi, do you actually know what this joint would be called? This one, if we're talking about our arm, like this, if this is a model of our arm, what would the joint be between the ulna, the radius, and the humerus?
My guess is that it's probably the elbow, right?
The elbow is correct. That's right. So the paperclip is acting as a joint, and it is standing in for our elbow in this case.
All right.
So what you're going to do after you've done that, and maybe if you're having some difficulty, ask a parent to maybe poke a hole into these tubes just to make the poking process a little easier. And remember to always exercise caution when you're dealing with something a little sharp, like scissors or a paper clip. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your elastic band and you're going to place it on top of the two forearm bones, also known as the ulna and the radius, just right there, just to secure them together, right? Just like that.
Does it also represent something else with the elastic band? Like, why are we closing them together?
I believe Cole has the answer.
I do. So not only do we have a joint in between the radius, the ulna, and the humerus, which we call our elbow, but there's also another joint in our arm. There's a couple other joints in our arm, but the one that we're talking about that's represented by this elastic band is the wrist, okay? So our wrist can move in a lot of cool different directions. Whoa, there's my wrist. Look at all that action going on. Okay, so the elastic band is representing our wrist joint, which is where our radius and our ulna meet at the end of our arm, more towards our hand. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So I know that we talked about the radius and ulna, so make sure that you label your bones for your model as well, so you just know which of the two it is. I remember that the radius is the bone closest to the thumb, right?
I believe so, yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then the ulna would be the one outside of that. So make sure you do that. And the last one is the humerus bone as well. All right, so Tom, what is the next step once we have, we poke through the holes, we join the paper towels together, what is next?
The next step, Kovi, thank you for asking, is we're going to build our muscles now. So we have one pre-made here. All I did was I took some nylon stocking because we didn't have any balloons, and I filled it with cotton balls here, as you can see, a nice rotund muscle that could either be our bicep or our tricep, I believe, is our other muscle that we're going to be making. But here's another one, just to demonstrate. So I'm going to open it up just like that, and I have sponges here. Sponges, yeah, because we ran out of cotton balls. And I'm going to stick them in the nylon stocking, and this is going to make my other muscle. Yeah, one at a time. There we go. Just going to put it in there.
All right, so we want a total of 2 muscles, one bicep and one tricep. And if you look over here, I think Cole's got one of the muscles down. Nicely done, Cole.
So I was working ahead a little bit while Tom was explaining how we're making our muscles. And as you noticed, my muscles are a little bit smaller than Tom's, which is true to life. But what I've done is I have taken my muscle, my stocking muscle, and I've attached it at either end of my arm. Okay, so if you remember, the humerus is where it goes up towards our shoulder. So if I put it up on my arm, it would kind of be like this. And the ulna and the radius come down by our wrist. So what I've done first here is I've attached one of my muscles to, I guess you would call it the underside of your arm, so the palm side of your arm, okay? And how I did that is on the top here, I just tied the stocking to the top of the humerus, and then I slipped it under the elastic band over here and kind of tied it over, but however you want to attach it works, as long as it's tight and it's not going to come off, okay? So this is the first muscle. Tom mentioned that we're actually going to have 2 muscles, and he's putting together the second one I'll be putting together the second one too. But Kobe, so there's two muscles, main muscles in our arms. There's the bicep and there's the tricep.
Correct.
So what I've done here is I've attached the first muscle to sort of, like we said, the underside of the arm. Okay, so on my actual arm, that would be this muscle right here. So do you know if that's the bicep or the tricep? Do you have a guess?
My guess is that this one right here that you're pointing to was the bicep, and then the tricep would be the one underneath. So if my palm was facing up, my bicep would be on the front position, the top position, and my tricep would be at the bottom. Is that correct, Cole?
That is exactly right. That's right.
Nice,
So
nailed it.
what we made on our model here, the first muscle on the inside, that is representing our bicep. Okay, and again, we've attached it, and we're going to talk about what's actually happening when we move this back and forth once we get both the bicep and the tricep attached. But I think Tom is going to show us how we attach the tricep next.
Yes. So, moving on to the tricep, I have successfully made it. It is true to scale. It does look like two sponges in a nylon sock. I'm just kidding. It looks like it has 3 heads. That's why it's called the tricep, right?
Oh,
Right?
nice.
Tricep versus
of
bicep.
course.
Tri meaning 3, like triceratops. So the tricep is on the back of our arm, you know. So what we're gonna do is we are going to attach it to the back of the arm. Now I have this tied up already here, and I made it a little loose just so that I could squeeze. Hopefully, I could squeeze the nylon sock underneath, just like that. And then I'm gonna straighten out my arm, just like that. And forgive me if it's not entirely anatomically correct, but it seems to be slinking to the side here. That's okay, but then take that elastic band and you're going to tuck the nylon sock in there. Hopefully you could see that, just like that. And there we have our tricep at the back. And we have a nice flexi muscle going on here. We have the bicep, you know, contracting. I have the tricep on the side just so our viewers at home can look at it. Yeah.
Nice. Wow,
That's
very
very cool.
good.
Yeah, I have set up my bicep tricep as well. Again, I'm really stretching it to the outer limits here. But Tom, I noticed
Yeah.
something kind of interesting
Yeah.
while I was sort of fiddling around
Like a
with
good
my
scientist.
Yes, yes, of course. With my bicep and tricep here, so I think you mentioned the word contracting and
Yes.
relaxing.
Yes.
But I noticed something very interesting about the bicep and the tricep when we move this around.
Yeah.
I noticed that depending on which direction I'm moving, one of the muscles is contracting and the other muscle is relaxing. Why is that? Why does that happen?
Well, you know, I don't have the exact clear answer, but I will give it my best shot. And if you do know the answer at home, please let us know on Twitter using the hashtag #CouchPotatoLab or on our phone or anything like that. You know, I had it right in my head, and now that I did that,
I think
social media-
I can help you out.
Yeah, Kobe,
right.
save me,
Yeah, yeah.
please
Okay,
save me.
so I'm gonna do a really cool magic trick right now. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh wow! Look, I made a muscle
Whoa.
too in record
Whoa.
time.
We had to go through all
Hey.
that work.
I know. All right, so we're gonna talk about a little bit more about contraction, and the thing is that there's a extensor and a flexor. And the bicep on this hand is the flexor, and the tricep is the extensor. So what the extensor does is that when the tricep or the extensor contracts, it actually lengthens the bones, making it straight. And if the flexor contracts, it shortens the bone and shortens the muscle as well. So that is what's happening when our muscles are contracting. So kind of like the muscles have to work in pairs. There's a flexor and an extensor, and in this case, it would be the tricep and the bicep. Does that make sense?
That does.
Yeah.
And you know what, Kobe? Thank you so much because I just totally blanked on that one.
No problem.
And we got it all on tape.
Well, that's really interesting, though. I mean, it's cool to see that the muscles have to work in pairs. It's not just when we're lifting something up or when maybe we're doing bicep curls, it's not just really our bicep that is doing the work or that is moving. Our tricep is also relaxing or extending or contracting while that's happening. So the muscles, we have a lot of muscle groups in our body that are working as pairs, okay? So, and they kind of flip-flop between whether they're contracting or they're relaxing, and you need to do both in order to do a lot of the different types of movement that we as humans can do. Yeah.
Yes, perfect, cool. All right, so we're gonna get into some of the questions that you viewers have sent, and thank you so much for that. Our first question is it important to stretch after a workout too? Does anyone have any ideas?
Yeah, yes, it is. It really is. So we did
Yeah.
talk about the importance of stretching before a workout or before maybe you're playing sports. It's really important to stretch before just so you can get your muscles activated. You can get them ready to experience some a heavier workload. But just as it's important to stretch before sports or before you work out or whatever, it's also important to stretch afterwards, okay? Because that's going to help reduce the tension that builds up in your muscle. Because when you're really going at it, which is what I clearly do in the gym, I'm really working out there. I'm building up a lot of tension. I'm putting my muscles through a lot of stress. So, and it's good to kind of relax them to cool down the muscles after a workout so that you reduce the risk of injury. Because if we're working out really hard, we don't stretch afterwards, our muscles are a little bit more prone to maybe tearing or stretching in a way that we don't want to if we make an awkward movement or something like that. So we want to make sure we reduce that tension through some sort of cool down stretch.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Cole. All right, another question that we have from Virginia. Thank you very much, Virginia. She wants to know, are bones and muscles attached, or do the bones just float around in the middle of the muscles?
You know, Virginia, thank you very much for your question. That is a great question. They are attached, actually. They are attached at certain places on your bones. When you maybe will go into a science lab and you'll see a model of a bone, bones aren't actually very smooth. They're very rough on the outside surface, and it's that roughness on those areas that allow what's the name of like a muscle's like the you know, where it attaches to. What's it called? Not the tendon.
Oh, the ligament.
The ligament.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So the ligament is going to attach to the bone. And so, yeah, they're not just floating around like a big old waterbed, because that would, you know, you'd be running and then all of a sudden your chest muscles are in your feet. And I think that's just a horrifying visual for everyone. But you know what? Muscles and bones aren't always perfect. There's lots of ways that we could injure them, but there's also things that sometimes might go beyond a physical injury that injures our muscles and bones. Cole, I know that you've been reading up on stuff like that. Do you mind telling us about that?
For sure. So like Tom was saying, and we talked about before, maybe if we're not stretching before or after exercise, we can injure our muscles or our bones. But there's also ways that our bones or our muscles can get damaged or injured that doesn't necessarily have to do with working out or exercise. And I'm just going to talk about a couple of those things really quickly. So first off, there's a condition called muscular dystrophy, okay? And really, to put that simply, what that is a sort of degeneration of the muscles. And degeneration is just, I think Tom was about to ask about that. It's kind of like a fancy way of saying that things are almost breaking down or they're getting smaller. So if we're using our model, actually, Kovi, could I grab your model? Because
yes, for sure.
That magic that you used was so great in putting it together. So if we look at the model, if we're experiencing muscular dystrophy, and there's lots of different types, and I'm sort of generalizing here, this isn't exactly the true case for everybody, but what we might experience is that muscle shortening, okay, or getting a lot smaller than it actually should be. And because we talked about before, our muscles are constantly contracting and relaxing and contracting and relaxing like this. If the muscle isn't the correct size, or if it's maybe missing parts that it's supposed to have, the contraction and the relaxation of those muscles is going to be a lot harder to do. So sometimes with muscular dystrophy, people that are experiencing that might experience certain limitations to their movement because their muscles aren't able to contract or relax properly. But there's other things that we could experience too. Another one that maybe you've heard of is arthritis. Now,
Yes.
arthritis is a condition, it doesn't affect the muscles like muscular dystrophy, but it affects our bones. It actually affects a very specific part of our bones called our joints, which if you remember, that was where two or more bones meet. And Kobe, do you actually remember what the two joints that we talked about before on our model were?
Yes, so they were the elbow and the wrist, and I think you can also get arthritis on those 2 points as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially our wrists, our fingers, elbows, anywhere there's joints, you can get a swelling and a tenderness, and that's what arthritis is. So people that experience arthritis have a tenderness or a swelling in their joints, and that can make a lot of really basic everyday movements painful and a little bit harder to do. So arthritis is another thing that we might experience with our muscles and bones that could happen. And the last one I want to talk about is a condition called multiple sclerosis. And I actually brought, there it is, something to demonstrate this. So one thing that we haven't really talked much about is, well, actually, let me pose this as a question to one of you, or whoever thinks you can answer. So we talked about we're moving, and our muscles do our movement, but how do our muscles know how to move? Like, what is telling our muscles to move when we move? Does anybody know?
I'm going to take a guess.
Yeah, Tom.
Is it that big old muscle inside our head, the brain?
It sure is. It sure is. Our brain, that's right. So when we're moving, I'm moving around like this, I'm moving the muscles how they're intended. Yeah.
Do you know why the myelin sheath like breaks down? Like what is breaking down that myelin sheath?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I have the exact answer to it, but I also don't really know if there's a general consensus. I don't know if Tom knows anything more about this, but I think there's a lot of possibilities as to why that myelin sheath might be breaking down.
There are a lot of theories, and especially in Saskatchewan, there's a lot of MS research going on, even at the University of Regina. There's many factors. I don't think that there's one simple thing. It might be something to do with their genes. It might be something to do with their diet. They have some theories about living in Saskatchewan and the increased rates of MS because many people, you might even know someone that has it. It might be something to do with sunlight. We're not entirely sure, but people at the University of Regina, I know that there's a big section in the biology department where they're actually looking at ways of curing it or treating it. I'd rather say treat multiple sclerosis. So, look around for stuff like that at the University of Regina. Maybe that's something that you want to do when you grow all the way up all those years later.
Yeah, that would be really, really cool
that'd be
to
really
do
cool.
more research on like diseases out in the world and helping society like overcome them. So that would be great. Yeah. All right. So learning about these diseases and stuff, I feel like I need to start like exercising more and be more healthy. But are there any other ways maybe I can strengthen my bones, Tom?
Well, you're looking at the right guy, Kobe. And I always say, if you want to learn, start with a joke. So Cole, can you tell me a joke?
Oh, Tom,
me
the
a
last time I told you a joke, it got a little weird. It got a little, you get very strong reactions, but I'll try. Okay. Well, I got one. Tom, what do you call cheese that's not yours?
I don't know, Cole. I always buy my own cheese.
Nacho cheese.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
What's that?
my funny bone fell out.
Whoa! See, this is what happened last time.
That's what happened last time. Ma, sorry, I lost another funny bone. So, Kobe, you were saying what's something to strengthen my bones, and often we tell you to drink your milk, to eat your broccoli, maybe have some almonds. The one thing that they all have in common is calcium. Maybe you've heard of calcium before, but what is calcium? It's actually a metal. It's tiny. It's a little tiny atoms that are in our diet that we get. They help our cells. For example, they help with our muscles to get the message from our nerves to our muscles to contract, and I might get into that a little later. But it's also important for bone regeneration. That just means like growing your bone, maybe sculpting it, maybe when you're growing it in puberty or something like that. So I made this model yesterday. It's just some plaster. It's hollowed out. One side has no calcium is what I'm going to say. It's got no calcium. It's completely hollow. And then calcium doesn't actually like build up inside your bones. There's stuff like bone marrow in here, but let's just say that this one's reinforced with 100% calcium. Now, I'm going to karate chop
Oh boy.
because I forgot a hammer. Thank you.
I trust you. I think you
Yeah.
can do it. I've seen you karate chop things before, and you've been pretty good at it. So
All right.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna karate chop the.
Ooh,
Look at that.
what a clean cut.
Look at that. It broke like old spaghetti. Now, please don't try this at home. I should have said that before. Don't try this at home. I'm gonna try karate chopping the bone that is enriched with calcium, among many other things.
Thud.
Yep. Big thud. So yeah, calcium. It's one of the many things. I think it's the main thing that we try to talk about. If you want strong bones, you can get it from milk. You can get it from almonds, from broccoli, from fish like salmon. But another thing, I briefly mentioned it, is that calcium is important for muscle contraction. So let's take something like tetanus. I hope that eventually, if you're able to get a tetanus shot within your lifetime, tetanus is a disease caused by bacteria that lives in soil. Usually you could find them in rusty nails. Thank you. So let's say you poke yourself on a rusty nail and you get a tetanus infection. So what's going to happen is they actually prevent calcium from leaving your muscle cells, because what happens is in muscle contraction, all the calcium rushes in and then it rushes out, causing contraction. I'm generalizing it a lot, but basically tetanus, the calcium can't get out, and so basically you're just kind of flexing and you're unable to unflex, and it's very uncomfortable and it's very dangerous. So I guess that's my little plug to say, if you are able to, please get a tetanus shot. Your bones and muscles will thank you.
Yeah, so calcium is very, very important to make sure that our bones are nice and strong to avoid fractures. And fractures are common in many people where we break our bones. And there's types of different fractures that sometimes I don't know, but I think I'm going to test you, Cole,
Sure, yeah.
and Tom
All right.
on types of fractures that there are. So the first one is green stick. A green stick fracture. So with your skewers, maybe try to pretend that this is a bone and break it however you think a green stick fracture would be
Okay. Okay. Green stick. I think of when I think of green stick, I think of like a green bean, so I think to me that would mean that the fracture is very long, like a string bean.
Yeah, string bean.
So I'm gonna try to make a long break across this.
And while he's doing that,
this might take a while.
when I think of green stick, I think of like a popsicle, maybe a lemon lime popsicle. Hey, you got it.
I got it.
Ooh,
I got it.
nice.
And what I like to do with popsicles is break them right in half so that I have two popsicles. So I'm gonna break it clean in two,
Whoa.
just in two, just
Whoa.
clean in two.
All right, good guess
great
over
move.
there. All right, so we have two different answers for green stick, a fracture, and the correct answer is Cole. Very,
What?
very good. Yes.
Wow,
Oh,
I'm
man.
actually extremely surprised.
So a green stick fracture, it means it's an incomplete fracture. So the bone is not completely broken, but just maybe a few things are chipped off.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the next one, let's do a oblique.
Oblique.
Oh.
Fracture. What do you think?
When
Tom?
I think oblique, I think of my roommate Bleak. Whenever he doesn't put his dishes away, I say, "Oh, Bleak," and then I throw all the dishes on the ground. So I'm gonna say it's like a crack. It's like a crack, just like that. Ooh,
Ooh.
you see that?
Smoke.
It's like a little bit of smoke.
Interesting.
I'm just gonna say a little crack like that.
Cool. When I think of the word oblique, I think of like sort of the meaning of oblique, which means like mysterious or ambiguous. So I'm thinking that this fracture is very tiny. It's a very, very tiny. So I'm just going to try to just barely like that. So you probably can't even see it, but it's just barely there.
Is it just barely there?
It is just barely there.
All right. So those two answers are very, very great, but Unfortunately,
Sounds like they're wrong.
an oblique fracture means it's a diagonal break across the bone. So
Oh.
oblique means diagonal, right? So it's
Right,
a
right, of
diagonal
course.
break.
Yeah.
That's
Diagonal.
very good.
Right.
All right, and all right. So that's great now that we learned a little bit more about fractures. But for fractures, usually you go to a doctor if your bone's ever broken. But what happens is that the doctors usually puts you in a splint or a cast or does surgery to ensure that the two bones meet again, so that stem cells, which are cells that are able to turn into like different types of cells, come in and try to form that bone once again to heal it. So it takes a lot of time to do that. And yeah, but now that I've learned a lot about muscles and bones, I feel like I need a little workout to do things. And I know that you, Tom, you're feeling a little nauseous. I feel we need to get our heartbeat racing.
I'm sick as a dog, and the only thing that will cure me is intense exercise.
Yeah.
And I think I know one person who has a great intense workout plan for all of us. One of my quintuplets. Hello, Mia.
Oh,
Mia. No way! I
Whoa.
didn't. This is wow.
We got Mia on
You
the
should have
show?
told us that this was happening, but okay.
Exactly. All right,
How'd we
so
get that?
Kat was one of my quintuplets, and this is my other quintuplet,
Wow.
Mia. Nice to meet you.
Crazy.
Tell us about yourself.
All right, my name is Mia. My pronouns are she, her. And my fact about myself is, because we were talking about fractures, is that in grade 6, I had a fracture in my arm right here.
Oh, what do you know what type of fracture you had?
Yes, it was a green stick fracture.
Like this one. Like this one.
So
Green
it's
stick.
Like a green bean.
Like a green bean.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. All right. So I know that you have an intense workout. What do you want us to do?
All right, so we're going to have a BBBB workout camp.
Ooh, what is
So
That's a lot of bees.
it's going to be big blasting booty burning boot camp.
Holy moly!
Acronym.
Sign me up.
Okay, so if you want to go in the center
Yeah,
there.
All right, we're getting ready
Sure.
here.
Keeps you good. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
we gotta keep it distant.
All right, what's the first exercise that we have to do, Mia?
All right, so our first exercise is a plank.
A plank.
I already did this, so
Nice.
I know all
Plank.
about this.
And we're going to hold it for 10 seconds. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4,
bird.
How's that
5,
nausea, Tom?
6,
Just ramping up.
7, 8,
Mia,
9,
count faster.
9 and a quarter,
9 and a quarter.
9 and a half,
Come on.
9 and 3/4,
Okay.
10.
Not funny
That-
anymore.
oh,
Okay.
oh my gosh.
Good bit. Good bit.
Isometric exercise.
Isometric.
Exactly. So yeah. So what kind of muscles do you think that was working?
My guess is that it was working my abs, right? I'm trying to get a six
Yeah,
pack.
well, I think we all think I felt it in my abs.
I felt it in whatever should be where my abs should go. Yeah.
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 Perfect.
For sure. Abs. Anything else?
A little bit of the glutes.
Little glute
your-
action.
Your bum muscles.
Sure.
Maybe
Sure.
my
Yeah.
shoulder? That could be
Yeah.
one? Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay, nailed it.
A little bit in
Okay.
my brain because I had to count to 10.
Oh,
You
that's
know?
the worst.
Yeah.
True.
What's next?
All right. The next one is a push-up. So let's do
Oh, boy.
5 push-ups.
5 push-ups.
Okay. Okay. Should we all do them together, fellas?
All
here?
right.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
1, 2,
3.
4, 5.
Oh my
boy.
God.
All right,
Wow.
show off
Clapping
over here.
push-up.
That
Okay.
is more push-ups than I've done since high school. Right on.
All right.
You got
So
one
what was that muscle contraction there?
Oh,
I
man.
would say that's isotonic.
Mm-hmm.
We were moving. We
I-
were,
yeah,
we were
yeah,
moving up and down. That's right.
Biceps and a little bit of our pectorals, our chest
Oh,
muscles.
Chest muscle.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
correct?
Yes.
Cool.
Nicely done, Tom.
We're killing it.
All right. We're gonna do one more.
One more.
Okay. So we're gonna do a squat,
Oh yeah.
and we're gonna do 5 squats.
All
Okay.
right. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wow.
Good job.
Holy moly.
Booty blast.
Yeah. that was blasted.
And what was that one?
Um,
Isotonic or isometric?
Well, I think just purely based on my photographic memory of Tom doing it a couple minutes ago, it must be isotonic, I think.
Isotonic.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and I think the muscles that we were using were our gluteus maximus. Is that correct?
Whoa.
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
it.
I forgot to do this at the beginning, but maybe we can do it right now. It's just a quick, what's the word I'm looking for? Cool down.
Yeah, that's a
Cool
great
So
idea.
maybe just like go touch your toes and come back up.
All right. Perfect.
Should we do this kind
As
of
a nice
slowly?
stretch.
Nice and slow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Touch
yeah.
your toes.
Wow.
Ooh. Or if you can,
Oh, man.
have your palms touch the ground.
Wow.
That's the
Look at
hard
you
part.
go.
Yeah, I
Oh.
gotta upstage your clap and push
Oh,
up.
I'm already back up. Okay.
All right.
That was amazing, Mia.
Wow,
Thank you
great,
so
thank
much.
you.
I feel great.
You know, Mia, I think, you know, because you just led such a beautiful booty blast and boot camp, that we might even make you a regular on the show.
Oh.
How would you feel
okay.
about coming back tomorrow?
That sounds great.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. What should we throw at her? Maybe a engineering activity?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
Are you ready for this engineering activity tomorrow, Mia?
Yes, I'm very excited.
All right,
Nice.
we'll see you then. Thank you
'Kay,
so much.
thank
See
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mia. Man, that was great.
Thank you so much, Tamia. Right now, we'd like to focus. We have a thing called STEM Spotlight, where we highlight people that have made a contribution in the field that we are studying today. And the STEM Spotlight today is Suzanne Funk. She is a physical therapist that specializes in pelvic floor mobility and therapy. The pelvic floor is right here in your pelvis and your hip muscles. So it's usually for people that have just given birth to help rehabilitate, make them better. So she works in a hospital. Yeah, we have her right there. She's a physical therapist in Regina. They're movement specialists. They work with patients that have problems moving in a variety of ways. You know, even last year, I hate to plug myself on a STEM spotlight, but
That's okay.
I did have a leg and back injury, and I had to go see a physical therapist. And you know what? They gave me some stretches. They gave me some movements, a little bit of a life advice, as you will say. And they're just wonderful people devoted to that. So thank you, Susan, for all your contributions. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. All right. And finally, we're going to end this episode with Ask Our Scientists. Woohoo. So this means that you get to text or tweet in your questions, and we'll attempt to answer all those questions with the best of our abilities. All right. And our very, very first question is from the Hayes brothers.
Hey, brothers. Brothers.
How many types of exercises are there?
Whoa.
I'm gonna say, you know, we just had Mia on, and she's an expert on all things exercise and movement. She told me before the show that there's isotonic, isometric, but in isometric or in isotonic, sorry, you have eccentric, which is where the muscles are like this. You know, if we're gonna use a bicep curl, for example, this muscle is engaged, but then when we bring it up, this is concentric. So that I'd say that's about 4. Can you think of any other types?
There's like four types of
I think
movements,
those
yeah.
are kind of the main types for sure. But within those groups, there's obviously a lot of different like movements and workouts that you could do within those that are doing isometric and isotonic and eccentric and concentric.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's maybe those 4 main types of exercises that you could do, that you could focus on. But within that, there's so many different movements and workouts that you could do to hit all of those different types.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of muscles that we want to like target. So there are different exercises for those specific muscles. And like sometimes Tom mentioned about compound exercises, which means that we're activating more muscles. Like for example, a squat, it would use your hamstrings and your glutes and all of that. So there's, yeah, more muscles are activated. Perfect. Next question is from Virginia. Thank you for sending in your question. Virginia wants to know, does Tom Covey and Swole Cole go to school?
I'm glad that Swole Cole came back. That's great.
Perfect.
You know, thank you again, Virginia, for another question. I would say that we all go to school in some capacity. It's a little trick, a little twist ending, I think, to this answer. I just finished my degree in biology with a focus in molecular and microbiology. So I love learning about cells, your muscle cells, your skin cells, maybe even bacteria cells. Going into education in the fall, hopefully to be a teacher and teach all about cells.
Oh, because I know we have a teacher in our team.
Where? Is it Mia?
Is it Mia?
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
you.
Well, to answer your question, Virginia, I did go to school for a long time, and then I stopped going to school. But then I started going back to school. But instead of being a student, I was a teacher. So that's what I do now, and I teach all about science, and it's really, really fun, and I like it. And hopefully one day Tom and I will teach together.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be a dream?
Wouldn't that just be something to look at?
Amazing, man. All the isometric, isotonic, boy, oh boy.
You get
would
to
be
learn
beautiful.
all about all the muscles with Tom and Cole.
Be the most ripped science class that you'd ever see.
You're darn right. You're darn right.
All right, and lastly, me, I also did my degree in biology as well. So I went to university for 4 years and learned about a whole bunch of different biologies. I didn't do a concentration like Tom over there, but because I wanted to learn more about like the environment and like the stem cells and physiology and all that. I wanted to like diverse my learning capacity. Yeah, so I just finished my degree and I don't know what to do next. So maybe if you have suggestions on what I could be, send in your suggestions through Couch Potato Lab, tweet it or text it. That'd be great. Yeah. Next one.
Great.
From Jose. What is the funny bone and why is it called that?
Wow.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Question. Very good question.
Great one.
Sure. Yeah. So we saw Tom's funny bone earlier. Maybe we saw a little bit of too much of Tom's funny bone coming out there when he was laughing at my hilarious joke. But what's really, really interesting about the funny bone is the name funny bone isn't exactly completely accurate. So the reason that we call it a funny bone is if you've ever and by the way, for those of us that don't know, when we talk about a funny bone, we're kind of talking about sort of there's a space where your elbow joint is that sometimes if you hit it, like you hit it against the table or something like that, or against the door or whatever, you might get sort of a shock, and it's a very weird feeling. It's sort of a shock down your arm, and it feels funny, so we call it the funny bone. But it's actually a bit of a misnomer because what we are actually experiencing there is when we hit that softer part of our elbow joint and we get that shock, that funny feeling, we're hitting what's called our ulnar, there we go, nerve. So remember, actually, if we go back to our model, the ulna, which is this inside bone here, the ulnar nerve is the nerve that goes and runs along the ulna. Okay, so that's why it's called the ulnar nerve. And when we hit that softer part on our elbow, we sort of send a signal that wasn't supposed to be there down our ulnar nerve, and that causes our muscles and stuff to feel sort of funny. So that's where the name funny bone comes from.
I always thought it was the humerus.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
I love that. All right, next question is, do animals have muscles too?
Oh
great
yeah,
question.
I think we could all answer that on the count of three. One,
One,
two,
two,
three.
No.
Yes, but some of most.
I
Kobe,
mean-
why do you say no?
No,
I know
I
you got a
say
little- you got some
no
insider
because
info.
I feel like there are animals that don't have bones at all or don't have muscles.
Oh, you know what? I'm always forgetting about our good friend the jellyfish.
Yeah,
And you know what?
exactly.
Another one, our good friend the sponge.
Oh, you know
Yeah.
another one? Our good friend.
We have three good friends, Tom. What's that third friend?
You know, I was gonna say the sponge.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but a hydra is an animal, is it not?
It is
Yes, it is
absolutely.
an
Yes, it's an
Yeah.
animal that actually reproduces through budding, which is
Ooh,
cool.
our good friend the shark.
Oh,
They don't
Our
always show
four
up to our
friends.
functions, but they are a good friend.
Mhm,
They aren't actually made of bones; they are made of cartilage. And you know, we have cartilage in our bodies too. So if you want to take your nose and just wiggle it around, right? It's bendy because it's made of cartilage. It's not quite bone. It's a very spongy material. So yeah, not all animals have bones.
But many of the animals that that maybe we think of first do definitely have bones and muscles.
Yes.
Dogs and cats and deer and rabbits. Oh my.
So you're telling me that some animals do and some animals don't have bones and muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, there's some animals that are similar to us in that they have bones and skeletal systems, muscular systems, but others, like what we mentioned, a jellyfish or a sponge or something like that, they don't have bones or muscles.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right. Next one is the show still the Couch Potato Lab? There's no potatoes on the couch, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It is still called the Couch Potato Lab. So our potatoes actually started growing eyes, and we can actually plant those to make more potatoes.
That's how it
so
works.
yeah, so we're going to, since we're planting them, we're going to grab a few more potatoes later on and throw them on our couch later on. Yes, because I
can't
really
wait.
miss my friend Potato, and I can't wait to see them again. Yes.
Cool.
All right. Next question. When you get
I
an
think we got time for one more question.
yes, I think
Yeah.
so. When you get an eye twitch, what is happening from the Hayes brothers?
Oh, I actually would love to take this one,
All
just
right, cool.
because, just like
You've
Tom
dealt
has a
with it.
personal medical story that he shared. I also, earlier this year, was having some craziness going on with my eye twitches. And everybody has this from time to time, where they get a twitch in their eye. But I was having it like almost every day. My eye would be twitching, and it was a sort of a weird experience. So I went to a lot of different doctors that did some tests and did some some checkups on me, and sort of what was happening is there's a lot of different reasons that could happen. One of the big ones is just dehydration, actually. So we talked about how your muscles can cramp and they can kind of go funny when we get dehydrated. That's part of the reason. We get dehydrated, our muscles may start to spasm and just to move without our control. And the other thing is like we talked about, our muscles are always controlled by nerves. And sometimes those nerves can have funny things go on with them where they send signals when they're not supposed to. So that's part of the reason, or that's two of the reasons that we might get eye twitches.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
Cool.
Thanks, Cole. All right. So lastly, we are doing an eyes giveaway. We are going to give away a potato clock as well as with some eye swag. So if you're interested, all you have to do is either text or tweet in the answer to this question. In episode 5, when Eyes gives you lemons, Sabrina put in a little extra something in her lemonade. Maybe I think she didn't put. I think the 3 ingredients were like lemonade and sugar, but she messed something up. What did she put? That was
I'm dying to know.
Me too. So make sure that you text it in and tweet in the answer, and then you might be able to win this potato clock and some eye swag.
Wow.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We would like to thank our supporters like the University of Regina, as well as Extra, and we thank Graffiti TV for allowing us to do this really, really cool opportunity. And thank you so much to you viewers at home for staying tuned and being our biggest fans. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye.
See you later.